Welcome everyone to the day of Wond'ry. We are so glad you could join us this morning. Today we will be telling you all about the Wond'ry, which is Vanderbilt's Innovation Center. I'm Michael Dodson. I'm the Wond'ry's Administrative Assistant and Event Coordinator, and I'll be the MC today. All right, so our first presentation will be with the Wond'ry's Evans Family Executive Director, David Owens, with special guest Carolyn Floyd, who's the Director of the Office of Immersion Resources. And I will now turn the presentation over to Dave.
Okay, let me see if I can get this up. All right. Be on its way. There we go. Okay. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Day of Wond'ry. We want to, we were planning on having something like this in person, that is some kind of celebration of the I guess sort of the wide variety of activities, the wide variety of things that we do at the Wond'ry. And so when COVID-19 happened, as we all know, the pandemic, we decided to go ahead and do this virtually. And I really want to thank Kendra Oliver for spearheading this, and also Ginny for helping make this happen. And so I think it should be fun. We're going to be here for a while today. My friend who's a therapist told me that the DSM, there's a new condition, a syndrome called video conference anxiety or something like that. And so anyway, so we have we'll have that at the end of today, but hopefully it'll be fun. Hopefully you'll see some things that you hadn't seen before, and hopefully you'll learn a few things about the Wond'ry, about what we're trying to do, about the amazing things that are going on, the amazing things that our students are doing, the amazing things our staff's doing, and the amazing things our mentors and friends are doing as well. Without too much ado, what I'd like to do is actually let me just say a couple of things, and then I'm going to actually turn over to Carolyn Floyd. Carolyn is the Director of Immersion Resources, and she can go into that in just a moment. For those who don't know, the Wond'ry is, we're almost geographically, I guess it's a little bit of a stretch, at the center of campus, but we are certainly close to the students, the college halls. The idea of the Wond'ry is it's a place where you can go, first and foremost a space, a place where you can go and pursue things of the innovation projects of any kind, whether they be entrepreneurship, whether they be social innovation, and we'll get into what those specific things are, but it's a place to go for that. Certainly we are going to, and we're going to be definitely open for any advice you all have about how to manage this thing called space during social distancing and during the kind of the reopening that we have to do. So we're really thinking hard about that right now and trying to figure out like how it is we're going to make a space, a place where people come, and at the same time keep it safe for everyone, the staff, students, faculty, everyone who goes to a place like that. So we're in a little small building. A lot of people think we're in the big building. The big building is the Engineering and Science Building. It's actually a big research building, and we are the IP, what's called the Innovation Pavilion, get an IP, Innovation Pavilion, attached to that, right next to it. And so I just wanted to outline before turning it over to Carolyn that basically how it is we think of ourselves and how it is that we operate, maybe our mission, our brand mission and statement. So there are a few things. I think the most important things of them being that for people who are explorers, sort of in the middle here, people who are explorers, creators, and citizens, those would be the main things that we are really focused on. People who want to try new things, people who want to try new ways of learning, new ways of being in the world, new forms of engagement, new forms of what I call sort of empowerment for people to try new things. And it's a place where we give feedback, but there's no assessment. We don't have courses. We have workshops. And it's a place where we want really people to get their hands dirty. It's tinkering with ideas, tinkering with things, tinkering with new ways of solving problems in the world. And so that's what we're about. And just in case you'd wondered, the term Wond'ry comes from a contraction of the words wonder and foundry, or you can even think of wonder and creativity. The wonder is sort of the awe and the thinking and the wow, that would be amazing. And the foundry part is really about making, is about actually making things manifest. Because your ideas are just that, ideas, until they take form in the world. And so giving them form in the world, the foundry part is really also the most important part of it. Because we can have ideas, but if our ideas are just that, they don't change anything in the world. And we really are about change. And really are about moving things in a new way. And so these three terms here are really important terms for us inside the Wond'ry. Our operating principle, so how it is we see ourselves operating, We are a community, curious and self-motivated, and also we're always after meaningful innovation and growth. So not just innovation for innovation's sake, not just start a business to start a business, but really things that are meaningful. And what is meaningful varies. Of course, every person has different ideas of what's meaningful for them, but we do ask people we work with to be able to reach down inside and sort of talk to us about what it is that is meaningful to them about what they're doing, and to help us help them make that real. We are a community of creativity and innovation practice. There are practices that can make one more innovative to make one more creative. And so we're about sharing those practices. We're about learning those practices. We're about, sort of communicating about them. We're also a space where you can meet other kinds of people. So that's where the diverse participation networks comes in, that there are people who are connected to people who you would never get to meet otherwise. Through kinds of, on one part, chance interactions, but also we're trying to build the community network in a way that you can actually get to people, that is, in terms of interacting with them, in terms of getting ideas from them, in terms of giving ideas to them, who are very different from yourselves. We are also really support risk tolerance, personal agency. So here it's really is about being confident with your ideas. That is, if you have an idea, being able to try it out and say, okay, it's a good idea, it's not a good idea, or okay, this is a interesting way to push something forward or not, and helping us develop the agency to do that. And I think that's really important for our students. The Wond'ry is for faculty, staff, and students. It's for the entire Vanderbilt community, and increasingly the Nashville community. But I really think the idea of personal agency is specifically for the students, of giving them the permission to be creative, and the confidence to know that their ideas, not that they're good ideas, but they're testable ideas, that there are ways that they can do things that are relevant, that are ethical, and that are done in those kinds of ways. And then finally, the last thing I just wanted to quickly say, that we are about process, intentionality, so it is being intentional about what you're trying to do, and also using a process. Because if you're lucky and you happen to hit the random innovation once, that's nice, but it would be much better to have a process to be able to routinely innovate, to be able to do things again and again. Because when you have a process, you can tweak it, and you can sort of say, what did I do last time? Should I do more of that? Should I do less of that? And that will take us forward. So one of the things that's going to be important to know, we have this space, and I'll talk about these in a little bit, but one of the main things we think could happen and should be happening, and is beginning to happen inside the Wond'ry, is the projects of this thing called Immersion. And so at this point, I wanted to turn it over to Carolyn Floyd and have her talk to us a little bit about what Immersion is, how Immersion affects students, and what kinds of things do you think the Immersions might entail for doing at the Wond'ry.
Well, thank you so much. I first appreciate the invitation a lot, and am really glad to have the opportunity to participate in this, not only to present, but also to just see everything that's coming up. I'm probably not alone in the sense that I'm missing being on campus, and missed a lot of the wonderful things that go with the end of an academic year and the semester. So having the opportunity to see some projects today is very cathartic and soothing in some ways. My entire existence for the past couple of years, since the Office of Immersion Resources started, has been about students and their projects, and helping them put their pursuits into some kind of project and figuring out how that's going to happen. So a really quick little bit of background. I'm here to represent both the Office of Immersion Resources and the idea of Immersion Vanderbilt. My office is the group of people that are responsible for implementing and coordinating this new undergraduate degree requirement across every corner of campus. All of the undergraduate schools and colleges and the professional schools are participating in this new experiential learning requirement that started with the class of 2022. So for those of you who haven't been kind of lockstep with me on this, since we started, we've got the second year of immersion underway. The class of 2022 had a deadline to submit all their plan proposals in April, but we went ahead and pushed that back because there's been a little bit of interruption. And so in September, we will hopefully have all of their plan proposals in place. And what those proposals are going to show us is how students have taken their call to do something experiential that's tied to their classroom learning and turn it into a sort of overarching project that is finalized with the completion of a final piece that can take any format that they want. So in brief, across the university, the requirement is that students work with a faculty member on their project from like the very beginning to the very end. And then they also have to complete a certain number of hours. It's got to have enough robustness to deserve being on an immersion, a Vanderbilt transcript. So students have to do the equivalent of 9 credit hours worth of work, or about 300 to 500 hours worth of time. And then they tie it all together, like I said before, with a final project. And that project can take any format they want. It's where something like the Wond'ry is so helpful for us, because it provides students an opportunity to get in, to practice, to tinker, to get their hands dirty and try something new in a different format that they've never tried before. They can do their projects in their majors or out of their majors. And what we're really asking students to consider is how all of the resources on campus can help them with some kind of project that they might not otherwise have done or ever have the opportunity to do again. So immersion's asking students to think about something with intentionality, to engage in critical thinking, logical reasoning, ethical reasoning, and to work with a faculty mentor to really open up their minds about something that they want to own, but to have somebody that they're collaborating with and listening to along the way. For the faculty, the benefit is that students are so curious and so engaged and really want to help with the work that the faculty are doing. And so we're hoping that over time, this really becomes such a great way for the university to engage in these things that, for instance, the Wond'ry is doing, where students are trying something new with the oversight of a faculty member who's also maybe working on that project also. And we can see through that pursuit of a joint passion, some really incredible projects that will demonstrate what everybody on campus is capable of doing. There are a couple of student presentations this afternoon that we've actually advised along the way, so they are part of their immersion projects. And I'm excited to see where they are now, because I've met at least one of these students back when she didn't really know what she wanted to do. And I said, you know, you like science and you like art, you know who you need to talk to is Dr. Oliver. And that connection happened, and now the student is able to follow this pursuit that she couldn't have done before. That's the thing that gives me goosebumps and makes my job so cool, because I get to see that connection happening at a world-class institution with resources like the Wond'ry that will help students do things that they're passionate about in a way that they couldn't have done otherwise. So I'm very excited to see all of the things that are being offered today, that there's more coming out about what immersion is, and that we get to see some projects that could potentially either be immersion projects or be the impetus for some future immersion projects. But the main thing is that these projects are incorporating classroom learning with experiential learning and giving the students an opportunity to stretch their creative boundaries, to work on interdisciplinary projects, to work on that process that Dr. Owens mentioned, and to measure success, not through something working out the way you expected it to, but through effort plus engagement. And that's the goal of immersion. I'll pass it back to you, Dave.
Unmute myself. Thank you. Thanks, Carolyn. I've been on the immersion steering committee, and it's been wonderful and interesting to think about how to put into place something that doesn't have grades, that has very loose requirements, the requirement really being just that the student do something independent and learn from it, and have a deep learning experience. And so even getting faculty to want to do this, getting students to want to do this has been it's sort of amazing to see. And it's kind of serendipitous that the three things sort of came together at once. One was the immersion requirement. That had to go not only through our own entire university faculty system, but also through the accrediting organization that we're part of, and also DIVE, which is designed as an immersive Vanderbilt experience. Later on, Kevin Galloway can tell us a little bit about DIVE. So DIVE and the immersion were sort of two curricular, or we might actually argue extracurricular, big things that went through, and at the same time we stood up the Wond'ry as a place to support a lot of this, and that was one of the driving I guess, reasons behind being able to do this thing. So just quickly, and I'm going to just run through, I want to show you a little bit about the space, I want to show you some of the kinds of projects, and then we'll go ahead and get deeper into those through the rest of the day. So we have this collaboration event space, that's the general, I think of sort of as the big space. It's you can rent it. People on campus can rent it out through the internal campus event management system. We're not really sure what events mean anymore or what they're going to mean going forward. So we're going to be sorting that out. We have a mechanical lab for prototyping and design, that is for mechanical things, plastics, wood, hand tools, things like that. There's a VR lab. We have a virtual reality lab. They are building an autonomous golf cart, for example. That's one of the projects there. Also, we've just been able to install there a portal into IBM's quantum computer. And so people, students, faculty, whoever's interested in quantum computing will actually get access to IBM's quantum computer through a portal in the Wond'ry. Our EE and mechatronics computing lab, that's where if they have anything involving wires and power supplies, things like that, we can go there. Also, we have then the textiles and advanced materials lab. That's one of our newest labs, is to have a place where we think about, there's a number of interesting things. There's clothing and fashion, also sustainability in fashion. There are also medical new materials. There's a lot of things to explore there, and we're just really making our baby steps to trying to stand that up. And then finally, there's the art lab, which is our digital and analog art studio, and that's the place where Kendra spends lots of time with her fellows working there. Let's see here. Okay, so the structurally, we like to think of what we do in sort of these four rough buckets, and it's not a perfect structure, but it is a little bit how we orient our thinking. So there's a practice we call social innovation, and we call them practice areas very intentionally. So practice is about practice, like literally about putting your hands on, really about becoming better at something, really about sharing insights, understandings of ways of doing things like you would in any profession. Those are the practice of law, the practice of medicine, right? So we want to have the practice of innovation. So these four practice areas, one is social innovation, and that is, you'll hear from Haynes, Motzinger, and Ginny Rand a little bit later, things where it's about a social good. They can be generating ventures, they can be doing public service, they can be helping out with organizations, they can be doing some knowledge infrastructure, helping organizations understand how best to do their good in the world. Next, we have an entrepreneurship practice area, and that's where we have lots of programs there to help aspiring entrepreneurs. Most of our mentoring activity, for example, is done around entrepreneurship, where we have former or current entrepreneurs and helping support students. We also have an NSF funded program called ICOR, which allows us to qualify teams to get a $50,000 grant from the federal government. It's undiluted, with no equity, anything, to do customer discovery for projects they have. We have the advanced making advanced prototyping, and that's the place where we do the making. And there is a practice to making. There's things about like, how do we make prototypes, what kind of prototypes important, how do we test our ideas, how do we know what the critical aspects of our ideas of testing are, in addition to just the basically like, how do you run an Arduino, how do you make a Raspberry Pi, those kinds of things. And then the fourth practice area is around innovation and design research. And so if you think of design thinking, if you think of innovation, any kind of scholarly work around innovation, that's the area that we sort of think about those things. And this whole thing, again, is held together with process, and in some cases innovation process, but really you might think of also as design thinking process. So we've probably heard the term design thinking process. It really is just a way of stepping through, making sure that we're able to do things in a way that we know what we did, and we're able to decide to do it the same way or a different way the next time we do it. That's what we call learning, right? So I just wanted to run through a few stories of innovation at the Wond'ry. Some of these will be alluded to later. Some of those, I'll be sure to leave a little time for Q&A so we can you can dig into these a little bit further. But I just sort of wanted to whet your appetite for the kind of things that we do and the kind of things you'll see more of today. So one thing is we have had a great series of sessions from one of our business mentors. He's headed it up. Amr Al-Hassani is one of our star mentors. We call him a master mentor, and he's been running a program about COVID-19 and business and the global economy. There have been some great sessions there. He's pulled together really nice panels to talk about what the implications are for this. Like, should we be buying stocks? Should we, all the different kind of things to think about. Also, the recordings of all these sessions are available on the Wond'ry website. So you just go to the website, you can see recordings of all these. We had recently a Teams Collaboration Innovation a session on how to build teams. It's a really interesting thing that our recognition was that a team could fail as easily from not having funding as it could from having bad dynamics inside the team. And so not very many programs really think about how do we give teams the tools they need to understand how to operate, functionally as a set of people working on something together. And so we're really thinking hard about that, and this is one of our sessions in that direction. We have a wonderful group of mentors. This is a little bit of a dated version of that, but it's in all different areas. You can see all these people have agreed to be able to be willing to take time with any team that is referred by the Wond'ry. It can be a student team, a faculty team, a staff team, whatever, but they're willing to take time in some specific area that they have some expertise in to share with the students. We are, this is actually just a quick screenshot of our new management, but basically our project and mentor management system. We're going to have lots of basically we're going to have a database of all of the kinds of projects going on, all the programs going on, and as a person who's a member of the Wond'ry community, you'll be able to see that. You'll be able to see what the different groups are. Arms Research, for example, the top one there is a Brad and Tim are a couple of their twins, PhDs in computer science, AI, cyber defense. They started a company. They're working with us, not with us, but we're supporting their work. We're facilitating their work with mentors and with others inside. And I think you'll hear a bit more about them later. But this is the idea here is just basically we're going to have a way for people to understand a little bit better what the Wond'ry does and what teams inside the Wond'ry are doing. We've had student pitch competitions. The 3686 conference, our students always do very well there. We get them well prepared for that. A student, this is Noah Robinson. Noah Robinson is a PhD student in clinical psychology. Basically, the story I understand here is that Noah was in a PhD program, possibly regretting that he had done it because it was sort of kind of boring and not interesting, and so he was hanging out at the Wond'ry just to basically to procrastinate and avoid contact with his advisor. He happened to realize that, oh wait, in this virtual reality lab right here where these students are hanging out, I could actually do addiction cessation using VR. And that actually got him very excited about finishing his PhD. I think he's in his last year now, and he started a company to do this thing, to do addiction treatment using virtual reality. Basic idea being that if people could practice the situations where they get triggered to relapse, and if you could practice going through that, you can help people build resilience against that. Also, if you're agitated, there's things you can do in virtual reality to get people to calm down again. ZENO Power Systems, this is another interesting one where two students basically sold a kind of, let's just call it a vaporware story. They had this idea that what if you used nuclear medical waste? So if you get some kind of medical procedure that involves radioisotopes or whatever, what happens with that waste? You could actually use it to power things. So like think of a miniature nuclear reactor. Very, very low power. They had it as an idea. They shopped it. They went through our NSF I-Corps program. They were able to shop it around. They were accepted to TechStars. They got a big contract from the U.S. Air Force. They think it's going to be on a satellite in 2021, and that was over the course of a year. And both of them, Jonathan was a senior last year. He ended up stopping his mass. He did his mass. He did his undergrad at Vanderbilt. Was doing a master's. Tyler was also doing an undergrad, but a year behind, and they both had to stop school right when this thing really took off. And so we're hoping they'll come back, or at least they'll send money home when they get rich and famous, the way many of these people are going to. I mentioned earlier the Watson, IBM Watson hub arrangement we have. So we work with, I think can you still hear me? I just heard a loud snap, and so I thought my power went off or something. Anyway, IBM has a lot of contractual grant relationships with the university, but we have a thing called the Watson Hub. They basically are giving us resources to expose our students and faculty and staff to IBM skills and expertise and experiences while they're still here, so that way when they go off and go to work, they'll ask for this stuff at their new jobs. So Mubarak on you, he's one of our Wond'ry student ambassadors, maker mentors. He runs a program where you build this little robot. You can see he's got the little robot there. It basically is a Raspberry Pi, and it talks to the Watson AI cloud and does natural language processing. So you can say, robot, flash your light, and the robot will flash its light. Thereby, the students learn Raspberry Pi. They learn the kind of how do you talk to an API. They learn about how you program for a cloud computer, how you get the information back, and then how you actually turn an LED on and off. And this is a program that he teaches. He teaches this to our students. He's also running a fantasy football draft using IBM Analytics. And like I said, we just set up the IBM quantum computing portal as well. Kevin Galloway, who you'll be hearing from a little bit later, he's been working with some soldiers at Fort Campbell. Basically, the soldiers had come into the makerspace. They were interested. I think the very first one was a firing pin wrench for a howitzer, which is just, I don't know, something that someone had 3D printed. A soldier had. He went back to the base, started bragging about it. Everyone else said, hey, where'd you make that? And then they started coming down. Pretty soon they're working on shape charges. That's making explosives of certain shapes. Of course, the Vanderbilt General Counsel's office is going crazy. The Fort Campbell General is going crazy because, well, there's a civilian blowing stuff up. Oh, there's people making explosives. And then that precipitated a connection for us with the Army Futures Command. And so now we have an official legitimate relationship with the U.S. Army to do soldier-inspired innovation. That is innovation basically with soldiers, not sort of this high-level top-down stuff, but really working with soldiers with the specific needs they have. I think right now there's a project on field litter ambulances, so the ambulances and how you take the litters and move them around inside. We've had some things like
Dave,
a couple of... Yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt. So you have about 1 minute left until we start the next presentation.
Yes, that's right. Okay. So... Yeah, good. What I'm going to say is I'm going to just say here we've been having a number of great presentations, great interactions, great basically gifts to us through us to people like the art therapy, the 3D animation. We've tried to support as many different kinds of innovation as possible, and hopefully I've given you a sense of the wide variety of things we're trying to do. Just quickly, let me just pop back over here and say what we're after is a community, and all of you who are here, we would consider you part of our community. We hope that you would want to stay and get more engaged with us as part of our community. Be sure to let us know how to reach you and how to get back to you through this. I think we have emails through the registration, but we'd love to have an ongoing growing of this community and making it more relevant for all of us, and making sure that we have things that are the things that you need as well. All right, thanks very much. Thanks for being a part of this, and hopefully you'll enjoy a lot of the things coming up for the rest of the day. Thanks.